think it's pathetic, and I think it's pitiful, and I think it shows a lack of integrity to base your principles on a political party. And, we do on the left, we have anti-war choices too, and, I think they have as much of a chance of being elected as Ron Paul, but, if you're on the right and you're anti-war, then you should support Ron Paul. If you're on the left and you're anti-war, you can support the Green Party or Rocky Anderson of the Justice Party, or, who knows if some other anti-war person on the left is going to rise up. But we know for a fact that somebody like, let's talk about Dennis Kucinich. How come Dennis Kucinich runs as an anti-war Democrat, for the last 2 times, but, he won't primary Obama now, even though, like you say, Obama is prosecuting at least 9 different fronts of war right now, the U.S. war of terror. How come somebody like Dennis Kucinich isn't standing up and saying that, the Democratic Party needs an anti-war voice?
Yeah, and his silence has definitely been notable. I would assume there's probably been pressure behind the scenes. I know he did speak out on the Libyan front of the war and received a lot of flack from it. I know from inside the Bilderberg circle, they were saying that damn Kucinich is making this hard for us.
I interviewed him for my show, Cindy Sheehan Soapbox, and he said that that what Obama did in Libya was an impeachable offense. And I said, well, okay, Dennis, if, why aren't you running for president? He said, well, I think someone should, but I'm not going to. So I don't know. It seems like somebody who's already run for president 2 times in a row and has a base could be more of a challenger than, somebody just coming from nowhere to challenge Obama as a Democrat.
Okay, we've got some callers waiting even before I gave out the number, but if you want to join us, it is 1-800-259-9231. Let's see what Matthew in Tennessee brings to the table. Are you there, Matthew?
I'm here. Mr. Sheehan, I would like you to do a small piece of investigation for me. I want you to look at pictures of Karl Marx. He will put his right hand in his jacket to conceal it. This is a sign of Masonic allegiance. I want you to consider, Mrs. Sheehan, that perhaps the most effective thing to do is not to avoid taxes, but to ask the Marine Corps of the United States of America to not turn their weapons on American citizens, but rather turn their weapons on the people who give them the order to do so. Thank you very much.
Cindy, if you want to respond to that.
Well, I think that I don't like to talk about weapons being turned on anybody, but I think that certainly the military who follows orders, even illegal and immoral orders, are part of the problem. And, talk about Obama persecuting me. Obama's persecuting Bradley Manning, who took that serious. He took that seriously. That soldiers are not required to follow illegal orders. And look where he is. He was in Quantico for a year and a half being tortured, and now he's on trial literally for his life. So of course I think that the troops that follow these illegal and immoral orders are part of the problem.
Well, it's kind of an escalation of evil as well. First, there's a justification that it's okay to kill civilians, but it's not just in the military component. We've seen our rights stripped away under the TSA, but now everyone's reorienting the mission to somehow the homeland people are the threat. And it's just scary what they're doing. And they are talking about coming after Americans and trying to convince the military people that's somehow acceptable. I know a lot of them aren't going to go along with it. I hope that proves to be the case. Let's see what John in North Carolina brings to the table. John, are you there?
Yeah, hello, Cindy Sheehan. Thank you very much for everything you do, and I'm so sorry for your loss, but you are a true American patriot. And I'm glad that you pointed out that most of the people that were backing you weren't really backing the anti-war effort, but they were just against Bush. And might I say that I thoroughly agree with the grassroots movements that you've made, and there's a grassroots movement around right now that might help to bring out the truth about things. And one of those affronts to freedom that happened recently was all the voter fraud that went in on the main GOP and the caucuses. And if I may, I'd like to read a very quick opening to this. Anyway, I'll just do it. The blatant voter fraud committed by the Maine GOP in the 2012 caucus is an affront to the freedom of the American people. Their manipulation of the true results and disingenuous response of correcting their mistakes on March 10th, 4 days after Super Tuesday, represents obvious censorship and will not be tolerated. Therefore, we are calling for a boycott of all things Maine unless the Maine GOP reports the true and full results of the caucus before March 6, 2012. This correction must be reported with the same fanfare and national exposure as the original fraudulent caucus results were presented to the nation. As Maine businesses profit from their association with the state of Maine, their products and services will be boycotted until this travesty of justice is rectified. Due to the time constraints, the boycott will begin with the following Maine associated businesses, however, will not be limited to LL Bean Incorporated, Poland Springs Water, Division of Nestle Waters North America, McCain Foods USA, Kennebunk Technologies. Americans who are against voter fraud and censorship should contact these companies, along with Governor LePage, GOP leader Charlie Webster, Maine Tourism Bureau Frank McGinty, and the Maine Chamber of Commerce. Contact information and specifics of the fraud can be found by searching for Boycott Maine for Voter Fraud and Censorship on YouTube. That's Boycott Maine for Voter Fraud and Censorship on YouTube. I think we can really make a dent with this.
Well, there's been undeniable voter fraud in Maine as well as in Nevada, Iowa. They threw out the official results as well, but it's also a delegates race. Cindy Sheehan, isn't it time to tear down the false veil of left and right and really look at people who are trying to fix the system itself?
Well, that's one of the reasons that I think that a tax revolt would be far more effective than getting, sucked into the cesspool of federal electoral politics because, voter fraud is not the exception. It's not a surprise. It's the rule. It's been happening ever since voting has started, but now it's more sophisticated. There's not only voter fraud, there's manipulation, there's propaganda, there's Madison Avenue selling us the candidate. So, I really think that instead of being, support a candidate, vote for a candidate, but I think we should really be concentrating on, solutions outside of the establishment, not inside of the establishment, because guess what? The establishment, they own the voting machines, they count the votes, they're the ones that control the whole process. So why are we allowing ourselves to get sucked into it? What we need to do is think of creative ways to oppose the establishment, not want to be part of the establishment.
Well, we can have that conversation as long as it's not about throwing out the Constitution and Bill of Rights, because I don't know if I'm going to agree with all of your solutions. Let's get one more call here.
I never said to throw out the Constitution or Bill of Rights. What has happened is that it essentially is meaningless to the robber class. They have already thrown those things out. So they only apply to us then. There's two systems of justice, one for the rich and one for the poor. So, the Constitution and the Bill of Rights has essentially been rendered meaningless by the establishment. So we need to reclaim our rights. We don't have to have our rights written on a piece of paper to know that we have our rights, but people, they allow themselves to be sucked into all this propaganda and all this establishment hoo-ha when, we have solutions that are based right in our own communities.
Well, you've got a point there. Certainly our rights are God-given, and we need some decentralized answers. Let's hear from Lyndon in Texas before we go to break, and we'll be back in the last segment.
Hello?
Hello.
Yeah, how you doing, Aaron? I think you're a good host. I like the calmness about you, and I think Alex Jones is an angel. He was sent to Earth to save lives, and I like what he's doing. I like the Tang and Tangerine. I'm going to order that diet plan. And to Cindy Sheehan, your son, he lost his life in vain because if they would have told him they were going to sign an NDAA, I don't think he would have went to the army and fought in Iraq. And I think it's a shame that our soldiers are dying for Obama just to take over our
I agree. We're going back to the break. We'll come back to you. Why has there been so much silence on NDAA? Everyone was outraged about the Patriot Act. Now somehow it's okay. It's more than just the wars. We got a big problem here. We'll be back.
Hello, I'm Alex Jones. Myself.
Would you stand tall and strong?
We're back at Infowars.com. In the last segment, Cindy Sheehan is our guest, but right now we're going to go back to Linden in Texas. You were making a point about the NDAA.
Sir, yeah, the NDAA to me is really unnecessary. Right there, it shows Obama's turning his back on America. American people should be outraged, and they should get with all the people that's going against the NDAA, because these soldiers are dying, losing their lives. They didn't join the army and say, okay, take all our freedoms. They joined for our freedom. So it's a double-edged sword. And I disagree that one guy said, don't stop paying taxes. Cindy Sheehan is right. Everybody should stop paying taxes. Tell everyone in your family, do not join the military until we get a legitimate government to support. Then you support them. But if you're supporting this government, you're not supporting America. You're supporting an illegitimate group of people that's trying to put nuclear war on us. Right now, they hang around Iran trying to kill us. What's the sense of nuclear war and all our children going to die? You might as well be an adult and fight the system in every way you can.
And they beat us over the head with supporting the troops and all the ribbons, but look how they really support the troops when they have mental problems or anything else, or just stressed out about fighting illegal wars. They come and SWAT team them or take their guns or try to lock them up. Cindy Sheehan, your comments on what the caller was talking about.
Well, I agree with him about everything he just said. And Chris Hedges, war correspondent, journalist now, has actually trying to file a lawsuit against Barack Obama and Leon Panetta, the Secretary of Defense, about the NDAA to declare it illegal and unconstitutional. So there are people who do still have integrity, who are still working against the government, no matter who's in charge.
It's still just amazing to me that people in general are not out in the streets against the NDAA, bringing that war home to us after all these illegal wars. Let's hear from John in Ohio.
Absolutely agree. This character, I think, was put in Obama, this CIA operative, by the largest elements of the Wall Street and the military-industrial complex, because they knew that if they had an Uncle Tom president in the White House, he could shut up the few anti-war Democrats, and most people are sheep. If they don't have somebody who tells them it's permissible to take a position against these wars that Obama is doubling, his police state measures that he's doubling, as the previous caller said, leading us into wars, they become sheep and they say, well, who am I with my little mind, my little weak mind, if all of these big people? And I think that people are going to have to begin to not to take this position that if we attack him, the Republicans will win. If you attack him from the left for his warmongering, his fascist police state, his stooging for Wall Street and the military-industrial complex, you automatically discredit the Republicans. And I think if we begin to realize that the Republicans are giving him actually fake progressive cover by attacking him falsely as a socialist, he's the exact opposite. Everything he's done has been to enhance the power of the anti-socialist, biggest monopolies, bankers, warmongers in the world, in world history. And I think that the Republicans are actually giving him cover, and it's a kind of a kabuki fake fight theater that he loves, because it gives him an opportunity to get on television and pretend to be a populist.
Cindy, we got 30 seconds if you want to respond to that in closing, and thank you for joining us.
Well, I agree with everything the caller just said, and your listeners can get more information about me and my protest at cindysheehansoapbox.com.
And we hope people will join those efforts and say no to these illegal wars and the persecution of those fighting against them.